Okay, this is the video solutions for the point slope form. Now, just to discuss and review a bit of what we went through in class here, on this worksheet, they're asking us for the equation of the line. And whenever they ask for the equation of the line, you always use the point slope form. Point slope form, we need a point, which is why they have x1, y1. So I'm going to point out to you, you're going to be given a point, one point, that's all you need. This is where the x1 and y1 come from in the point slope form equation. And we need a slope, m. So with these two values, we can obtain an equation of a line that satisfies the conditions going through that particular point with the indicated slope. So we just need to identify these values and use point slope form. And that's why it gets its name, point slope. Okay, let's look at the first example. Notice the point we have is 0, -2. So, like I recommended in class, every time you use the point slope form, write it down. This helps you to memorize the formula. Now, we're going to use the values here for x1 to be 0 and for y1 to be -2, and notice the slope value is -1. This is my m value. So when I plug these in, let's see what I get. Y minus 2 is -1 times x minus 0. Simplify my right side here. I have -1 times x. The left side I have y plus 2, or simply y plus 2 is -x. I'm going to solve for y by subtracting 2 from both sides. We obtain y is -x minus 2. This is the equation of the line that contains the point 0, -2 and has a slope of -1. Again, we simply use point slope form. Number 3. We need to find the equation of a line that contains the point 0, 2 and has a slope of -1. Y minus y1 is m times x minus x1. We're using point slope form. My x coordinate is 0, my y coordinate is 2 for the one and only point. So I'm going to plug these values in. X here is 0, y is positive 2, m here is -3. Y minus 2 is -3 times x minus 0. Let's simplify here. X minus 0 is simply x. And on the left, I have y minus 2. Solve for y by adding 2 to both sides. And we get y equals -3x plus 2. And that's number 3. Number 5. I need the equation of a line that goes through the point -1, 4 and has a slope of 5. Notice again, we use point slope form. Y minus y1 is m times x minus x1. We're simply going to plug in the values. That is, x1 is -1, y1 is 4, and my slope is 5. All the information I need is given here. We're going to plug in the values for y1, x1, and m, and that's it. We get y minus 4 is 5 times x minus a minus 1. I can simplify on the right side, and I get x plus 1. We're going to solve for y, but first use the distributive property to get rid of your parentheses. 5x plus 5. Add 4 to both sides. We get y equals 5x plus 9. And you're done. Number 7. 2, negative 4 with a slope value of 1/2. We have one point with an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate and a slope. We use point-slope form. Plug in your values. y1 is negative 4, my slope is 1/2, and x1 is 2. y1, negative 4, x1, positive 2, my slope, 1/2. y minus 4 is 1/2, x minus 2. Simplify your right side. Minus a minus is plus. Don't forget we distribute to get rid of the parentheses. 1/2 x minus 1. We're now going to subtract 4 from both sides. Y will be y is 1/2 x minus 5. And we're done. Number 9. We got negative 3, 1, and a slope value of negative 2/3. Here's my x-coordinate, my y-coordinate of my one and only point. We're going to use point-slope form. Plug in the values. x1 is negative 3, y1 is 1, and my slope is 2/3. We get y minus 1, negative 2/3, x minus a minus 3, y minus 1, negative 2/3. We get x plus 3. Don't forget to distribute on the right side here. And we end up with y minus 1 is negative 2/3 x minus 2/3 times the 3. My 3's will cancel. Y minus 1 is negative 2/3 x. Solve for y here. You're going to add 1 to both sides. We get y is negative 2/3 x plus 1. And we're done. Number 11. Negative 4, negative 3, with a slope value of negative 3/4. We have our one and only point with an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate. We're going to use point-slope form. Y minus y1 is m times x minus x1. x1 is negative 4. And plug that in. y1 is negative 3. plug that in. My slope is negative 3/4. Let's see what we get. Y minus a minus 3 is negative 3/4 x minus a negative 4. Minus a minus gives us plus. Minus a minus gives us plus. Let's distribute, and we get y plus 3 is negative 3/4 x minus 3/4 times 4, or simply we get y plus 3. Let's look at it down here. Y plus 3 is negative 3/4 x, and it looks like I have a minus 3. Solving for y, we've got to subtract 3 from both sides. We obtain y equals negative 3/4 x minus 6. And that's number 11. Number 13. Slope is negative 2, negative 8. Sorry, that's my point. And my slope is 4. X coordinate, y coordinate. We use point slope form. Y minus y1 is m times x minus x1. Okay, let's plug everything in. Let's notice that x1 is negative 2. Y1 is negative 8. M, my slope, is 4. We're going to get y minus a minus 8 is 4 times x minus a negative 2. Minus a minus gives me a plus. X plus 2. We're going to use our distributive property here to get rid of the parentheses. And we get y plus 8 is 4x plus 8. I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. We get y equals 4x. And we're done. Number 15. What we're given in number 15 is not a single point and a slope. We're given 2 points. Now, what this means is we actually have to use the slope formula to determine our slope. Okay, it's not given to us, so we have to compute it. We have to determine the value. So the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's remember, y2 here is 6, y1 is 7. x2 is negative 2, and x1 is 4. So when we compute our slope, we should get 6 minus 7 over negative 2 minus 4. Our slope will be negative 1 over negative 6, or simply 1/6. This is our slope. Now, once we have a slope, we have to use point slope form to determine the equation. Notice that we have 2 points to choose from, and we only need 1. It doesn't matter which point we pick. Since my subscript here is 1, I'm going to use the first point. That means x1 is 4, y1 is 7. So replace this y1 with 7, replace x1 with 4, and my slope here is 1/6. Let's plug this in and see what we get. Y minus 7 is 1/6 times x minus 4. Y minus 7 is 1/6 times x minus 4. We're going to use a distributive property here, and we get y minus 7 is 1/6x minus 4/6. Remember, 4/6 reduces to 2/3, so we have y minus 7 is 1/6x minus 2/3. Solving for y, we have to add 7 to both sides. And we get y equals 1/6x minus 2/3 plus 7. We're going to have to do some work here. We're going to have to add here a fraction with a whole number. So let's get to work, and we have negative 2/3 plus 7 over 1 becomes negative 2/3 plus 7 over 1 times 3 times 3, and our fraction will be negative 2/3 plus 14/3, or negative 2 plus 14 is 12/3. We get a 4. Let's see. We made a mistake. It's late, and that's a mistake. Oh, no, we don't. We don't get a 4. It doesn't make sense. Here we go. 7 times 3 is 21. And we get really 19/3. There you go. Now that makes sense. Whew, it's late. All right, here we go. Y is 1/6x. And then that's going to be plus 19/3. And we're done. And that was number 15. Number 17, let's see what happens with number 17 here. We have 2/5 as our first point. We have negative 8/4 as a second point. Okay. First point, second point. We need the equation of the line, and in order to do so, we're going to use point-slope form, but we need a slope. We got to use a slope formula to find the slope. And let's identify what we have. X-coordinate, y-coordinate, x-coordinate, y-coordinate. Y2 is 4, y1 is 5, x2 is negative 8, and x1 is positive 2. So my slope becomes 4 minus 5 over negative 8 minus 2, or negative 1 over negative 10. Our slope here is positive 1/10. Now, y1, or I should say y minus y1, is m times x minus x1 is point slope form. Let's identify what we need. Again, notice here. I have 2 points to choose from, and I'm going to choose the first point because it already has my subscripts of x1, y1. So y1 here is 5, my slope is 1/10, and x1 is 2. We get y minus 5 is 1/10 times x minus 2. By the distributive property, let's change the color here. Y minus 5, 1/10, x minus 2. By the distributive property, we'll get y minus 5 is 1/10 x minus 2/10, which will give us 1/5. y minus 5, 1/10 x minus 1/5. And to solve for y, we add 5 to both sides. We get y is 1/10 x minus 1/5 plus 5. Again, we have some work to do here. We're going to take this fraction and add it with a whole number. And again, we need to multiply top and bottom the second fraction by 5 because the LCM of 1 and 5 is 5. We can only add like fractions. -1 plus 5 is 4. We get 4/5. Here we go. Y equals 1/10 x plus 4/5. Here's the equation of the line. This was number 17, so we have 19. 4, 8, and -4 is 6. First point, second point. We need the equation of the line that contains both of these points. We need a slope, so we'll use the slope formula. Let's identify what we have. X coordinate, y coordinate, x coordinate, y coordinate. Y2 is 6, and y1 is 8. X2 is -4, and x1 is +4. So the slope will be 6 minus 8 over -4 minus 4, or we get -2 over -8. Negative divided by negative is a positive, and our slope here is actually 1/4. Y minus y1 is m times x minus x1. Let's identify the values here. I'm going to use the first point again because it has my subscripts of 1. In my point slope form, I have y1 and x1. So y1 here is 8. x1 is 4. My slope is 1/4. So plugging in these values, we get y minus 8 is 1/4 x minus 4. Y minus 8, 1/4 x minus 4. Use your distributive property, and we'll get y minus 8 is 1/4 x minus 1. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Y equals 1/4 x plus my 7. And that was number 19. Number 21. -4, 0, and 0, 2. These are my 2 points. I need an equation that goes through both of these points. We always use point slope form. Y minus y1 is m x minus x1. Now again, my point I use will be the first point because I already have my subscripts of x1 and y1. So let's see what we have. Y1 is 0. Oh, we need the what? We need the slope. Okay. Slope formula. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 here is going to be 2. Y1 here, let's get rid of this. Y1 here is 0. X2 is 0. And x1 is -4. So the slope here is going to be 2 minus 0, 0 minus a minus 4. So my slope is going to be here 2 over 4, or simply 1/2. Now I can use my point slope form. Let's identify the values. Well, let's write it down here. Y minus y1 is m times x minus x1. And so now I can see that y1 is 0, m is 1/2, and x1 is negative 4. So let's see what we get. Y minus 0 is 1/2. X minus a minus 4 here. Now, y minus 0 is simply y. Let's go back and put this all in black. Y minus 0 is y. And then we have 1/2 x plus 4. We're going to use the distributive property to distribute, and we get y is 1/2 x plus 1/2 times 4. Y is 1/2 x plus 2. And we're done.